See here. Oh, what's up? We are live. What's up, wrestling fans? I'm Doug.
And I'm Kevin.
This is the Two Bros Wrestling Show. This is the world is burning, Kevin. I don't even know where to start. Hopefully we can take our minds and everybody's who's watching minds off of the reality that is the world now. It is a little it's crazy out there, brother. So let's just jump into some wrestling news. Yeah, there we go. What was that? The opening bell. There we go.
The opening bell. Let's get to it, Doug. It was actually a busy week, and we have a jam-packed show. We're
Indeed.
doing a double preview for you tonight, and of the upcoming pay-per-views the next couple Sundays. So let's just get straight into some headlines, so we got time for everything.
Sounds good.
Probably. Hold on a second here. I got some noise going on. At least I'm not disappearing like I did last week. Which
man, we're gonna get a copyright strike. What is that song?
I have no idea. It's whatever plays after the opening bell plays on YouTube. So this week we had a lot going on in the world of professional wrestling. I'd say that probably first to mention is that after much speculation and years of teasing, the Revival made their debut on AEW as RTF.
Yeah, FTR.
Is it FTR?
FTR? Forever the Revival, Forever the Revolt, everybody
I'm dyslexic, apparently. I think I wrote that down backwards.
Or is it F the Rest, Forever the Revival, Forever the Revolt?
They are going to be a great addition to a stacked tag team scene. And honestly, I think the AEW scene, as good as those tag teams are, the Bucks, Private Party, all those, they all work fast. These guys are ground and pound. They will slow them down. I think the matchups will be better because of these guys being in the mix. So, amazing signing.
It's very, and like you pointed out last week when we were talking about the machine himself, Mr. Brian Cage, AEW is, throwing the money out there where WWE is still furloughing people and just considering bringing people back right now.
I will say, though, it is unfortunate, as much as I like the Revival and I'm happy that they're there, is that, you're live, you're amped up, you're making your big debut, and you kind of botch the spike pile driver and then follow that up by a pretty bad looking version of your finisher.
Yeah.
And then Brian Cage afterwards, in what would have been his TV debut, the drill claw also did not look great. I'm like, maybe they're not used to going live because, truthfully, there might be some of that because I thought there was a lot more blown spots on Wednesday night than normal, and I thought, is it just the live aspect that's throwing them off a little bit? That they've kind of leaned on the fact that we can post produce a lot of stuff now. But anyway, for the Revival, great addition to the AEW tag team scene. The WWE finally follows suit this week, Doug. We've talked about this repeatedly on the show, how much needed it was. WWE has audiences now, audiences in quotes, because they are NXT Performance Center students, but AEW has long put their wrestlers at ringside to create a vibe. I thought it worked already in week one. I thought the WWE product just felt livelier. Doug, you agree?
I absolutely agree. I've said for weeks on this show now that WWE is not doing any favors by not having anybody at ringside. And, even though it's fairly useless, I do like the plexiglass protection they have. I do. That's a nice touch too,
even though JR took a shot at it on Wednesday. On Wednesday's AEW Dynamite, JR kind of poked a little fun of the plexiglass. But hey,
again, it is pretty useless there as far as, keeping people out of the ring and all that. But, it's not there to keep people out of the ring. It's to help us all stay 6 feet apart because,
right.
I didn't see a lot of masks other than, Jimmy Havoc, who always has his mask on.
True that. So, now the product, both the main companies are looking a little more similar, each taking sort of best practices from each, and we got fans in the crowd. Yes. And we might soon have some more best practices to share, Doug. Headline here, New Japan Pro Wrestling could be coming back soon.
Yes.
New Japan was, because of where the epicenter was of the coronavirus, was the first major wrestling organization to shut down in this pandemic. and they have not returned as American wrestling has. They've just completely shuttered everything. But the prime minister has lifted the state of emergency in the country of Japan. And what that means for wrestling is that empty arena wrestling shows can start up on June 19th. And based on comments earlier this month from the New Japan Pro Wrestling president, that's the signal the company was looking for in order to consider running empty house shows. Then by July 10th, by this phase plan, 50% of a building's capacity of up to 5,000 people can be present for a live sporting event. And then by August 1st, 50% of the capacity of a building with no limit can be present. So New Japan very soon may be back to running shows, and then not long after that may be back to putting fans in the arena. I guess it's a game of chicken right now, Doug, as to which of the major promotions in our world is going to be the first to actually tempt fans in a building.
Well, in America, wrestling is an essential business, so I see it happening here before anywhere else.
I think that much like, WWE following AEW's suit by putting fans in, I think everybody wants to do it, but everybody wants someone else to go first. Someone else can take that hint of we're just following such and such's lead, or well, they did it. And so, yeah, it is a game of chicken right now. Who's going to be the first to tempt fate?
Yeah, a lot of no, this is in the guidelines. We're just following guidelines and being safe about it. But that guy did it first, so we're just following, along with him. So we'll see.
We do give a lot of gruff to the major organizations over this issue, but we will give credit where it's due. The fact that we've sat here and worried about when this would happen, they've to this point at least showed restraint and not going that route. So
absolutely, because I was really concerned as soon as Florida said, yeah, you can have these areas open at 25% capacity. I'm like, well, there it goes. We're going to have a paying audience in there next week, and that didn't happen with either one of the majors we've got right now that are running shows. So I'm actually happy about that, and I think the fans work. The fans, the folks at ringside, I think that works well. Although I was confused about the bunny being hanging out with QT Marshall on the faces side, but that's
I felt like we missed an angle somewhere. I thought the same thing. Like, did I miss a show because we skipped a chapter in this story that's going on? But
maybe that's why the Butcher and the Blade were so upset and decided to go after the Bucks.
And the last news item I have is related to layoffs and furloughs. So first and foremost, we talked about last week about Drew Gulak being let go or letting his contract expire. Right. Well, Drew Gulak is back. He was on SmackDown like if you didn't know any better, nothing had ever happened.
It never happened. I love wrestling.
So, yes, Drew Gulak has re-signed with WWE. And the other thing I'd say about the furloughs, Doug, is, layoffs and / furloughs, is that while WWE publicly announced those wrestlers that they were letting go, the back office people that we've reported on and other sources have reported on, your Kurt Angles, your Fit Finleys, all of that was not ever made public. So all that is stuff that has been gathered by wrestling media, speculation. And so we're still finding out folks that have been the victim of those cuts. For example, this week it was discovered that Nigel McGuinness, that Nigel McGuinness, who was not mentioned in any of the previous news stories about the furloughs, this week it was determined that he too has been put on leave. But because these are furloughs and because these are backstage guys, and because we've already seen Kurt Angle back on television, there is thought that unlike the wrestlers that were let go, that these folks truly are just on furlough and will at a certain time in the future and when needed be brought back. So hopefully that is the case for all of them, because there's a lot of talented men and women that in the backstage area, that some of whom we may still not know have been currently let go, that hopefully will be on their way back soon.
And that is good, because I can't imagine WWE letting Kurt Angle go again. I've read some speculation that he's on the chopping block, and just like Drake Maverick, he's running through his 90 days and just working out his 90 days. But I can't see. I mean, they let Sting's contract expire, and so I just see it as a matter of time before Sting shows up in Daly's place. But I could see the same thing happening to Kurt Angle if they did legitimately, because Tony Khan's already established that he's still going to be bringing talent in if that talent's the right talent. He's got the FTR. Now we've got Brian Cage. He's gonna still make some major moves if he can. So
and it might mean that WWE, as a result, holds their guys a little closer to their chest because they seemed a little cavalier in the fact that, well, now we can probably let people go because no one's going to hire them. Well, AEW is saying, nope, not the case. So WWE may reconsider some of the folks that are leaving hanging out there on the open market.
yes. Absolutely. So one more thing about news, and I want to bring this up because it kind of circles back around to something I was talking about a few weeks ago when Nia Jax had that ugly power bomb or buckle bomb with Kairi Sane. It looks like this weekend Vince made it official and has banned the buckle bomb as a move directly because of that incident. I was reading earlier that no more buckle bombs in WWE.
Well, if you don't even think about, whether or not, I know there's some debate about Nia Jax and the safety that she brings, take that out and think about like what ended Sting's career. And you just mentioned Sting, so that's what made me think. Right. It was a buckle bomb, right?
Exactly. Same thing. Finn Balor and Sting and Finn Balor both were, Seth Rollins. And, the more I think about it, Nia Jax is booked to be a almost a careless beast anyway. She is the monster. She's the monster of the women's division. So her moves should look very powerful, and she should be throwing around little Kairi Sane like she's nothing. But things are still going to happen in wrestling. Samoa Joe took out TJ. Help! What's his real name or wrestling name?
TJ Perkins, not TJ Perkins. Yeah.
But Natty's husband,
Tyson Kidd was his
Tyson Kidd. Thank you. Yeah, with a muscle buster, and he's done that move like 500 times. It just takes once, So, but I think it is good that something like that, which can clearly be unpredictable, to be taken out of the equation anyway. So,
if you've had so many attributed to one move, then maybe it's time to reconsider that move.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts.
Right. Yeah, because the curb stomp is back. Not that I don't think it was ever a dangerous move, but I guess there was fear of kids doing it way too easily and hurting themselves and each other. But anyway, that's all I really had news. You covered everything else.
I think we got the news covered, Doug. We got two straight Sundays of pay-per-views, right?
My goodness. And for those of you who are catching up and just watching now going, well, why are you doing, two pay-per-view shows at once? The way we do this is, on our WWE Sunday night pay-per-views, we go live after. Instead of going live at 8, we will watch the pay-per-view, hop on, and you get our hot takes then. So we're going to have 2 weeks of you guys getting our hot takes right after the pay-per-views. As soon as they go off, we'll be going on air. So we really can't talk about Backlash right after we come back and give you our takes on NXT's. Oh my goodness, it's NXT Takeover in your house, reviving that old thing. Yep. But you want to get into NXT?
Yeah, let's take them in chronological order, and let's start from what we think are going to be the lower card matches. The good thing about doing two pay-per-view previews in one is that NXT tends to not put a lot of matches on their pay-per-views, and we don't know all the matches yet for Backlash. So between the two, we don't have an overload of matches to consider here. But NXT in your house, probably going to start, Doug, I think, with Tommaso Ciampa versus Karrion Kross in a straight up wrestling match. And this is the initial feud for Karrion Kross, who has made quite an impactful debut. Of course, Ciampa always brings it. What do you think about this match?
I said this earlier. I said this just with the AEW pay-per-view, but I mean, this is how you build a star. So unless we get some wacky Cody Rhodes finish here, I see Kross going over. Tommaso's going to do the job and put him over because they're building him up to be a big star. And maybe we go all the way through a rubber match where Ciampa gets the next one and then Kross comes out on top in the rubber match and they move on. But I think this is the start of a feud and we're going to see it go after this. But, this first one's going to Kross. That's my call anyway. What are you thinking?
Karrion made his debut really by backstage being the secret attacker of Tommaso. So that sets this up. That's what led us down this path. I think that this is still early in that story. I think that Tommaso has been around long enough. People see him legit. If you're an NXT fan, you see Tommaso as a star, as you should. So I know we were wrong when we came to book a similar angle in AEW, but I don't understand how you don't have the monster go over here. Tommaso would lose nothing, and then there's still time for him to get his comeuppance down the road.
I agree. I mean, what?
It must have flew through here and went over to Huntington because something came through here a second ago.
It's so weird.
It's fast, man. It just got over from Ashland to Huntington. And
wow, that is insane. But yeah, so we are in agreement on that one. What do you got next? Because I had to pull some matches up here because I know I was just trying to find what we may be looking at because we still have one more week of TV to throw some things on there. But I'm only seeing 5 matches that are listed.
5 matches are currently announced. I figure that probably Finn Balor and Damian Priest might be next up on the agenda. Again, singles match. I think that Finn has done an amazing job by being willing to go back to NXT to show that it's not a step down, that it's a bit of creative freedom. But with that, I think that Damian Priest is going to be a big star for NXT, and I think Finn Balor does not care to do the job. We've seen him do it for Riddle. We've seen him, put a lot of guys over since he's gone back to NXT. I think that this might be one of those instances. This isn't a super hot feud. I mean, it's kind of like, more recent. So I don't see any reason why Finn doesn't do the job, and then people kind of forget that the match happened and he won't lose anything as a result of it not being that important.
Right. I hate to just throw it away like that, but yeah, I have to agree with you. I think Priest will go over, Balor will do the job, and it, just like Ciampa, he's not going to lose anything with the loss, and Priest has everything to gain, so it's a push. So that's the way I see that one coming together too.
So then, Doug, we got a triple threat. We got Charlotte Flair as the champion with the NXT Women's Championship going up against Rhea Ripley, who was her opponent at WrestleMania, and throwing in the wild card, you got Io Shirai.
Man, Charlotte is everywhere. And
she is everywhere.
She is everywhere. I think she's going to be on this show. I think she's booked here too.
Oh man, that's exciting.
Let's bring her in right now.
She just flew in on a fly.
But yeah, I think she's going to stick around in NXT for a while, because apparently somebody somewhere thinks she brings the ratings. So she's on every show right now. So I don't see a point in taking her off this. Not that her losing the belt would take her off of NXT, but I think she, I still think the better option would have been to keep the belt, have Rhea Ripley win over Charlotte at WrestleMania to bring more credibility to a Rhea Ripley championship and give her the rub of going over Charlotte. But I don't see either one of these girls. I think it'll be an amazing match with Io Shirai, Rhea Ripley, and Charlotte Flair. But I think Charlotte's going to keep that belt.
I think we both predicted that Rhea would go over Charlotte at WrestleMania. So that was where I thought we would start the Rhea Ripley era. Right. I think it's possible we started here. The element where you throw in a third party that can take the pin so that Charlotte doesn't have to take the pin could keep this feud going. And I think this feud may keep going. But I think it's Charlotte doing the duties on Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley saying, "Hey, you didn't beat me," and Rhea gets another one-on-one run. Because I don't see them taking it off Charlotte at this point. I don't see Io Shirai as having the belt. I think Rhea is the option. I just don't think. I think having her win it in a triple threat match is not the way. If you're going to make Charlotte the queen of everything, and then you're going to make a star out of Rhea Ripley by letting her go over the queen, you let her do it in a one-on-one when it means more.
Right. So
now we're the 2 men's titles, Doug. You want to go North American first and then say the NXT championship for last? Because we got
Lee and Gargano. Yeah, man, these are 2 just great talents, and by all accounts, just really great guys. There, it's back. Yes. There it went again.
I'm looking for it.
All right, it's on its way to you now, I think. But so I think it's time for Johnny to actually get a belt and keep a belt for a while. So I'm calling it for Gargano.
I'm loving heel
I know,
Johnny. I
I
I
know.
mean, I thought if there was like, it's the old school Ricky Steamboat thing. Ricky Steamboat never worked heel because he was just too likable. No one would ever boo Ricky
Mhm.
Steamboat. So we got to keep Ricky's face. I
Right.
thought that would not be Johnny would be the modern version of that one guy who will never go back and forth. He's just too good of a guy. His wife, and he's known to be such a nice person behind the scenes that no
Right.
one's going to boo Johnny Gargano. And then a little purple hair dye in Mrs. Wrestling's hair, and
Yes.
a couple of vignettes around the dinner table, and I like they are so obnoxious, and I guess it just shouldn't surprise us that Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling are pretty good at this wrestling thing, so they can
True. True. There's no
man, they are
surprises there.
owning it. So I think though that Keith Lee is so new still to the North American title scene that I think that this one goes a little farther. I'm actually going to this will be the first one we disagree on. I think that in a good contest, Keith is going to keep it for right now.
That's cool. Really, this is one of those matches that, regardless of who gets the win, we're all going to win with this one.
We
But
will win.
I think it's always more interesting when the face is chasing the title, and maybe we could get a circle back around for Keith Lee for that. But we'll see. We'll see where that one goes. So next up, we got
The main
Dream
event.
versus Adam Cole, baby.
Man, well, okay. Again, we all win because
Mhm.
like most NXT pay-per-views, there's just so much talent there, and they keep it limited to so few matches that you're going to get some long, great contest, and that will deliver. And this will be another one that will absolutely deliver. And Adam Cole has held the belt for going on a year. I think this is when we see a title change because I believe that Adam Cole Bebe is headed to the main roster at some point in the not so distant future. There's just too much money in him to not put him on a Monday night or a Friday night. Uh, Velveteen has shown that he can carry his end, and character wise, he owns that character, has it down pat. I think we enter the Velveteen Dream era on next Sunday.
See, I was going to say we're going into the dream time because I do believe we are. Because I totally agree with you. We are into the dream time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Because, nobody except Cole has gold in the Undisputed Era right now. And I believe they get called up as a unit. If they don't, that is just foolish.
Yes. Oh my gosh. If Cole comes, he would be a star regardless. I
Absolutely.
think that he would be more of a star on his own than say if you put a Roderick out there or a Bobby. As much as I like him, I don't know that they would be able to swim as well as Adam Cole could on his own. However,
I
if you want the most bang for your buck out of all of those talents, you bring them in as an absolute monstrous heel faction that just takes over everything. And from day one, have these guys up in the apple cart of Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown, wherever they land. I can't wait to see that myself. I think it'll be fantastic.
Absolutely. And I hope, I hope maybe just the Undisputed Era just lays low for a little while after this defeat, which I'm assuming is coming, and we get it back because I've seen too many debuts lately, which should have, I've popped for them. I've been up jumping off the couch, but, Brody Lee, Brian Cage, the Revival, I would love to see somebody make a debut in an arena with more than their peers around ringside at this point, because there's some big debuts that didn't get the pops that they needed, just like Drew McIntyre winning the championship. That should have been in front of 80 million screaming, or 80 million. My goodness, no stadium, 80,000 screaming fans.
Well, and like one of our watchers a couple weeks ago when we were broadcasting, I can't remember if it was during the broadcast or after, was asking what we thought about Dexter Lumis. Dexter Lumis has been an incredible addition to NXT, but
Yes.
it's one of those gimmicks that is so strange and different, and it draws you in because it's different. But how would a crowd actually be reacting to it? Would that gimmick be over? I think it'd be hugely over because no one's seen anything quite like it before. but it's really hard to say for certain because that character had to debut without the advantage of that instant sounding board of, they're getting this, they're buying this. Because as we know, look at the original New Day concept or the original, The Rock.
Right.
I mean, there's so many instances in wrestling, or how they wanted to position Kurt Angle when he came in the 90s, where fans completely rejected what the Office wanted, and they course corrected and made huge stars down the road. Right now, these guys do not have the advantage of knowing the Office is doing what they think is right and are presuming that the fans at home are reacting as they want them to.
Yep.
But they don't know for sure because
Right.
the students at ringside that are paid to be there are reacting as you told them to react.
Yep.
So I'm like you. There's so much right now with these debuts that the pops, the legitimate pops that could have occurred or not.
Sure, that's true. I mean,
like, hey, dudes, you all think this guy's a bigger deal than what the people do because listen to the silence and the crickets in the crowd. So, I mean, they're really flying blind in this era, which is an excellent point, Doug, that there's so much that's happened in the way of debuts that some folks may be being kept at an NXT, for example, because they don't want to waste that moment until they can do it in front of a crowd.
Right. I don't know, man. It's just a crazy world all around. But so that
gets a crazy world with 2 pay-per-views in 2 weeks.
Right. So that does get us through, as far as we know, that gets us through everything that is booked for a takeover right now, right?
Sure, they'll add another match or two, but I think that's because they keep it kind of on the low side, that's probably the card. So we got about the same number of matches already booked for 2 weeks from now on WWE Backlash. Doug, let's start with, if you want, let's go with a handicap match. Well, no. Let's go Asuka versus Nia Jax, which is for the women's championship. That one's already been official.
Yeah, since we've been talking about Nia Jax anyway, I don't think we're not going to get NXT Asuka ever again, where she has the championship for years on end and then just drops it because nobody could beat her and she's done everything she can. There's no more call ups to go to unless you were to go back to NXT or decide she's had enough of this and goes back to Japan, which I think she's one of the stars that's pretty happy with the WWE. So I don't see that happening. But, and then we've got Nia Jax, who is booked as a beast. She is the monster of the women's division. I just see that belt staying on Asuka for a while. This is really her first title defense since Becky handed it over. So I don't see. I don't see there being a transitional champion like I thought Good Lord, Braun was going to be, but. I don't see Asuka being that transitional champion just to hand it over to Nia Jax a month later. So I'm seeing Asuka go over with Nia.
I think this is one of those that they book you book sometimes yourself into a corner. They're building Nia as this unstoppable monster, but you're going to make Asuka a transitional champion if you switch that belt right now, but you're going to kill the heat you have on this big monster if you let her lose at this point. So I think that what you're going to probably see here is a schmoz of an ending. I think Asuka still keeps the belt. I agree that she's going to walk away still champion, but I'm not so sure that Nia Jax is going to take a pinfall here. I don't know if it'll be a disqualification or some sort of shenanigans, but I'm smelling shenanigans in this one to keep both women strong.
Did you say a schmoz of an ending?
Schmoz.
Is that a thing?
It is. Yeah.
I'll Google it later. Schmoz.
Yeah, go. Maybe it's a Canadian thing too, because I think I first started hearing the term out of Bret Hart's mouth when he was suggesting finishes for what ended up being the Montreal screw job. Kept talking about the schmoz.
Schmoz, yeah, we're gonna get a schmoz. So what else? Where you want to go next? You want to go ahead and let's go ahead and talk this handicap match. This ridiculous piece of work.
But with handicap matches, let's get it out of the way. You got Braun Strowman defending his title against 2 men, The Miz and John Morrison.
And here once again is where Braun destroys the WWE. tag team division. He's going to do it with these two guys. And maybe it'll lead to something interesting because we are eventually going to see Miz and Morrison break up and Morrison go out on his own and there'll be a feud there. Maybe we get a little bit more of that this week or next week or when Backlash in 2 weeks. Yeah.
There's no way that Braun's going to not win, even though no two men. You and I should, well, maybe not you and I take
that's a bad example.
Two professional wrestlers of any sort should be able to take on one. We've talked before about how, handicap matches, they kind of overplay it, and it's always obvious that the one guy goes over, usually at the, unfortunately, the expense of either a cruiserweight division or a tag team division. And that's what's going to happen here is that one singles wrestler star is going to look better than two tag team wrestlers. The best they could do, Doug, is what you suggest, and that have it be some dissension, be the cause for that instead of just a straight up demolishing. But I'm afraid that we're going to see just a straight up demolishing. But
I am
either way they go, Braun's walking out with that belt. No way he's not.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement there. And I'm just looking 2 more matches, right? Is that all that's booked for Backlash right now?
Well, yes. So you want to go, we'll save the title match for last, and let's go with the greatest wrestling match in the history of mankind. I'm sorry, but legit, WWE is booking Edge versus Randy Orton, which is a rematch from WrestleMania, and they do have a long history, but they are, for some reason, continuing to push that it is the greatest wrestling match of all time.
I don't know what they're doing with that. I mean, I do
putting them in an unenviable position. Both these guys are great. I mean, and they've had their, but Edge is one match off of a 9-year layoff, and Orton's a part-time wrestler who honestly can get a little lazy, whose better days are behind him. Why in the world you would put the pressure that this is going to be a straight-up match and the greatest this won't be the greatest match of these two guys' careers, much less of all time.
I don't know what's going on here, but I'm saying that we're going to a rubber match, so Orton gets this one, and that's really all I'm saying. Yeah, Edge went over in their all around the Performance Center match. Orton goes over in the greatest wrestling match of all time, and we get yeah, I just said that, didn't I?
Yeah, it just cracks me up every time I hear that. When when I first heard it, I thought, "Oh my gosh, that's a dumb thing to say." And then they started putting it as the tagline and repeating it. I'm like, "Oh no, that's a thing they're doing." But, okay, and it could be a good wrestling match, but I think they're dooming it by setting expectations way too high.
Either that, or they're aware of the irony of it, and they're just getting on the nerves of smarks like us. Which is what we should have called this, Smarks Like Us. It's not too late to rebrand.
Well, we have to think about rebranding. Year 2. Yeah, so in the greatest chinlock of all time, I think that Randy takes this one.
I love it, greatest chinlock.
You're right, Doug. Very likely the heel goes over just because he might cheat in what was supposed to be a straight-up wrestling match, and that means rubber match is what? Like a Hell in a Cell or some sort of extreme stipulation where now we got to put these guys in a cage or some way that whatever is going to happen to spoil this match.
Maybe they do. Maybe they're already planning ahead for SummerSlam, or it may be Fall Fest at this point, where they get into an actual arena and have fans, and we call a bunch of folks back, and people need to get paid, so we all just make it a lumberjack match, so everybody can get some TV time once they all get back to work. I don't know.
Who knows? But I'm in agreement with you here. We got to go at least a best of 3. So we got a Randy Orton victory, and then that leads us with only one other match that's officially announced, and that is the main event. You got your title match between the champ Drew, and he's defending against Bobby Lashley. I think this will be a good match. I think it'll be a big man style WWE hard hitting match, but Bobby Lashley has looked kind of like a different guy since he's been back in WWE, re-inspired. And, of course, Drew is just phenomenal and taking advantage of this opportunity. But it's still too early in this opportunity to see him lose, in my opinion.
I agree. I think we're agreeing on all these matches. But, yeah, McIntyre keeps that belt.
And as far as anything else, there's nothing else, Doug, that's booked. But what we're looking at, just as far as where it seems like the booking's heading, we're probably looking at Black versus Rollins, which will be phenomenal. Street Profits obviously are on their way to a match with the Viking Raiders for those tag belts. New Day maybe against the Forgotten Sons is kind of, they're hinting at that. I can see an Andrade versus a Cruz rematch for the U.S. belt, and then maybe something for Bayley because she doesn't have a natural opponent right now that we have 2 more weeks of television to sort through. But hey, that's that's not bad. We got through in almost record time. 2 pay-per-views into 1.
Right. Wow. And we're just at 35 minutes. Look at that. Look what we did. Wow. We're just like Money in the Bank. Boom, boom, boom. We're done.
Doug, what do you say we get to the big finish?
Let's do it. Boom. Big finish. Kevin, who got it right this week, man?
Oh, you want to start with who got it right?
Or who got it wrong? I don't even care. I don't know. We'll do it your way. What do you got?
What got your goat the worst this week, Doug? What would you say is the embarrassment of the week? Because I think I know what we're probably going to agree on. And if we do, I can go to my number 2 choice so that I don't repeat it. But it should be obvious, right?
Let me say that I really, really wanted something on Friday night to happen where I could look at the product I think I'm much more critical of, because we've joked before that this little bug down here in the corner by my name should say Dynamite Doug. And I really tried to justify it being the whole Jeff Hardy angle on SmackDown to start the show, but I cannot overlook what happened with Tyson on AEW. That finish, while apparently I was reading on ESPN earlier, while apparently it did exactly what it was designed to do, it was a ratings pop, it got a lot of mainstream eyes on the product. It did exactly what it was designed to do, but as a wrestling fan, that's one of those things that maybe could have been benefited from a more cinematic thing where they had time to work with Tyson, work with that large crew of guys that I'm not sure who they were, but apparently I've been reading a bunch of them are MMA guys. So I didn't know that, I'm the wrestling mark, not any other like sport mark. So I had no idea who any of those guys were. It just looked like a large entourage to me. And Tyson, Otis can rip his shirt, but Tyson couldn't rip that PW, not the PW, but that 1 hour tees, pro wrestling tees shirt that. So those, these are some quality things apparently that come out of Chicago because they can't be ripped, unlike the WWE stuff. But again, it did what it was supposed to, but it just left me going, oh, this is why I don't like celebrities. Even if they are huge fans of the product, there are those guys that have basically dedicated their lives to their craft, just like Tyson did with his. You're not going to see Jericho in a boxing match with Tyson, but we might see that now because wrestling. But it just seemed clunky and it just didn't fall right with me. That's what I got.
My embarrassment of the week was, if I had to pick the most, it would definitely have been the Jeff Hardy incident. And for those who are watching who didn't see Friday Night SmackDown, essentially Friday Night SmackDown started, it actually was effective the way they did it. I mean, I thought it was a very different look for a professional wrestling program, a very news feel, like it really seemed like a legit, hey, there's been an accident, but going down the line of there's been a car accident, well, there's a car left and it's registered to Jeff Hardy, and then there's a bottle of alcohol found in it, and it's just a little too close to the real world. Just a little too on the nose. And now I know, based on the ending or the way it's going to be a setup, so
right,
that's better than what WWE did in the 90s, where it was very famous. They did the whole thing with Road Warrior Hawk, playing him up as a staggering drug addict, drunk, because he was in real life. And that ended tragically it was bad taste to begin with. even though this is going to be a setup by Sheamus, it looks like, and Jeff really wasn't drunk and behind the wheel of that car that hit Elias and all that, it's still just a little too over the top and a little too close and a little too on the nose. That is definitely my embarrassment of the week, Doug, but I thought you were going to go with that, so I had a backup plan. And so I find it interesting you talked about AEW because we know you are Dynamite Doug, but I have to say that just all around AEW, and maybe it's just stood out more because they're usually so good about most of this. It was a rough week of The Office, in my opinion.
It really was. It really was.
On AEW Dark on Tuesday night, Nakazawa lost, or did he win? No, yeah, he won. He beat Brandon.
Of course, he beat Brandon. Has Cutler ever won a match? What is he, like 20-0 in his poor career?
He beat Cutler by countout. This was, and there was nothing wrong with the match, and I'm not mad about the ending even. This was the first countout in the history of AEW. The company has been around 1 year, and Excalibur noted this is the first countout in AEW history, which I know that most fans, most of you watching, none of us are sitting here going, you know what I would love more of, and I'd like to see more countouts. No, that's not the point. The point is that they serve a purpose when used sparingly, but and particularly for an organization that emphasizes the sports-like feel of it. It just kind of highlights the fact that AEW plays a little fast and loose with the rules sometimes. All professional wrestling companies do. But if you're going to keep stats, if you're going to keep win-loss records and rankings and that sort of thing, we've talked before on here about how there's sometimes, appears to be no rules in matches that should have rules. So just the fact they had a count out for the very first time in over a year just shows that, yeah, they need to tighten that part of it up. I know we already talked about, the Revival and a couple of the missed spots on that night, but to me, one of the glaring omissions, in addition to obviously the really bad Tyson thing at the end, but you and I talked what's so important about getting heat back on your heels, and that's the follow-up. You had a well-reviewed, well-received pay-per-view, and for, Brody Lee got beat and Lance Archer got beat. So your two big heel monsters both get beat. One cleanly. At least Brody has some sort of cover in that, I didn't give up, I didn't get pinned. But Lance Archer went down with just legit, straight down, no shenanigans. And neither of these guys were in attendance on Wednesday night's show, which flabbergasted me. They were barely mentioned and they did not show at all. This is when you just start rebuilding them up immediately after, and they were afterthoughts. So all the way around in the execution and everything, AEW just kind of had a tough week, which was just surprising.
They did, but I think AEW with Archer and Jake the Snake really kind of backed themselves into a corner booking wise, because you had Jake coming back out at the pay-per-view with a snake, Tyson running him off, Archer getting the loss quickly after that. So your logical heat there is to come out after Tyson, since he's going to be on the show, but Tyson's already there's already a planned angle with him. So let's just keep the Murder Hawk and Jake off TV. Let's keep them off. And I don't know about Brody Lee. I really don't know where they go. What kind of
a promo package from an interview from Jake or anything to show that, hey, he snuck one by us, but we're here and we're going to take revenge or whatever. Just something. Right. It was very strange to me, and just it made the booking on the pay-per-view even odder that there was no follow-up and no appearance by either of those men afterwards, because those were two of the biggest free agent signings in the last few months of professional wrestling, and you job them both out and then don't do anything to rehabilitate them right after doing so. Just odd choice.
Wrestling.
Because wrestling. All right, we'll talk positive. Before I get to my match of the week, I'm going to go with my performer of the week. We're going to mix it up this time.
All right, go.
Apollo Crews. I got to say, not only did he win his very first title in WWE, he beat Andrade, if you didn't see it, folks, Monday night in a very good match. I remember 3 or 4 years ago having my cousin here and showing him some NXT stuff and telling him, hey, this is one of the guys that's going to be on mainstream WWE soon. This guy can talk. He's got the power that Vince likes and the physique, but he's small enough. He also has the agility and the quickness. And I just thought he was it. And there's been so many instances of WWE taking NXT guys, and for whatever reason, either bad booking or just the gimmick doesn't translate to the bigger stage. Guys failing at that big stage when you would think for sure they were going to be slam dunk stars. And usually once that time has passed, that's it. I mean, it's just over and done for them. I thought that Cruz, I just thought he was done. I thought that he had been defined down for so long that there was no hope in rehabilitating that character. I got some hope up a couple of weeks ago when in the tournament, he looked like he was going to, make that Money in the Bank spot, and then got it taken away because of an injury, a fake injury, to get him out of that match. And I thought, well, that was just a hope spot. Yep. People thinking, well, we're finally going to get behind Apollo Crews. That's right, David Poole. That is you I'm talking about.
Oh, wait. Oh,
Dave was here, and I was telling him, this is one of the guys.
There we go.
And he never lived up to that potential. And then a couple of weeks ago, I thought that they were going to half-heartedly do it, and then they pulled the rug out from underneath me. And so I was so excited to see that they came back around, put him in the title scene, and then actually pulled the trigger on it. And really, the world of professional wrestling rallied behind this guy. He must be one of the legit dudes behind the scenes that is extremely likable. The emotions he showed after his victory were legitimate emotions, because I think that the dude that was talking was the way he really felt. And so, feel good moment of the week. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And now that he has the belt, maybe they actually do something with the U.S. title, give him a little bit of a platform with this. Maybe this is the start of Apollo Crews actually rehabbing his career when it started to seem like it might be a little too late.
Maybe so. I certainly hope so, because the guy is amazing, and I thought the same thing you did. He has the look that goes over. He can do those quick jumpy divey flip, all those flippy moves. But he just kind of went nowhere. He just kind of just like so many other NXT call ups that just kind of it's like they're not quite sure what to do with them after they come up from NXT for whatever reason. But
hello, Tyler Breeze.
He could have been the next Shawn Michaels. I'm telling you. I stand by that.
I mean, you can go down the list of guys that were over in NXT, and I just thought Apollo's one of those. At this point, Vince doesn't have any faith in him, and they'll never do anything with him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How about match of the week, Doug? What did you or perform? Do you have a particular performance?
Not a performer, but an organization as a whole, because I really, really like what the NWA is doing right now. Billy Corrigan, or William Patrick Corrigan, with Carney Land and Girl Power especially, and all the other shows that are running on their YouTube channel. But Carney Land continues to entertain me. I really, really like Carney Land, and and all the other shows throughout the week are really great to get people involved with, like, not only just the characters that NWA has, but also the people behind those characters. Because the first Girl Power was this Friday, and I ended up watching the whole thing because it was rather lengthy for something for a YouTube show, kind of like ours, where a couple of folks just ramble about wrestling. But I mean, it did have a lot to do with Hannah. Oh gosh, I've already forgotten her last name. It's gone from me right now. But the Japanese wrestler that passed last week, Kimura, Hannah Kimura. Is that right?
That sounds right.
Okay.
We'll go with
But anyway, I mean, just the NWA as a whole, I think, is really, really running with their own version of a no audience thing, because they're straight up no shows right now. But what they're doing is really getting their characters across, and the people behind those characters across too, with all their everything on YouTube. So check out NWA on YouTube. They've got something special going on.
Did you ever think that, as a couple of kids in Southern West Virginia growing up on the NWA, that in 2020 we would be sitting here talking about the National Wrestling Alliance again? Much less that Smashing Pumpkins got it.
Right. Billy Corgan for the Smashing Pumpkins.
You're absolutely right. The National Wrestling Alliance is definitely worth your time. What they're doing, even before you're in this pandemic era, and the programming they're doing now, their weekly show has been extremely solid and very old school in a way that is, not by old school, I don't mean like feels dated. I mean old school in the way that it evokes the nostalgia that you remember while still presenting modern professional wrestling.
Yes.
Check out the NWA. I concur. They're worth your time.
So, match of the week, bro. Right?
Man, do we agree? I swear, folks, we do not in advance.
we purposely make just random little lists for ourselves. Like I read our matches for our pay-per-views off of Wikipedia to make sure I had the most up-to-date list, and we really do kind of fly by the cuff and do not talk to each other before we go live.
But either there's such great consensus in the world of professional wrestling, or we have been friends for just way too long. But bro, that match, right?
That match, dude.
So you got Timothy Thatcher versus Matt Riddle in, what do they call it? A pit?
A pit, yeah. It wasn't a cage match. It was like a pit match or a pit fight match. But
check it out on NXT. It was on NXT this past week. It'll be on the network if you have the network, and because you didn't record it on USA. But I mean, I've never seen a setup like that. The setup was intriguing because there was kind of a rampway around the top, which allowed for almost an old school, like Skywalker's kind of match, like an old scaffold match kind of thing, where the guys are up there, because it wasn't a Hell in a Cell because there was no top to the cage. So you had a cage match that was kind of under UFC sort of rules, but it also had this hype element to it. It was totally unique, and both of these guys took full advantage of the cage, of the skywalk.
The catwalk, the walkway around. Yes, we got a floating bro off the top of the and that Showtime kick coming off the
cage,
cage, and then the spot where Thatcher's all bloodied and he's handing his teeth to Kurt Angle.
Now that might be again the advantage of cinematic wrestling, where they
absolutely.
Compare that, Doug, and you might have thought the same thing I did when watching it. As soon as that started happening, what came to mind to me was Shayna Baszler like taking a bite out of Becky Lynch in front of a live audience and coming up with fake blood. It looked awful. It looked fake. This looked real. This looked like, man, he just kicked his teeth out of his head.
Right, exactly. Because I was like, wait, did that just? Okay, no, that didn't just happen. Because no doctor's going to come out there and go, "Can you fight?" Yeah, okay, he can fight. No doctor's going to do that.
But if they'd have tried that live, Doug, I think it would have looked like the Shayna Baszler bit. There's just certain things you can get away with Hollywood style production and editing.
And this is also something. Of course, they benefit from the the NXT audience there, because it's all WWE employees, because Thatcher's back is to the hard camera. So, but there's still everybody around ringside and the live audience there. But the live audience doesn't really matter, because they can edit that at this point, and the live audience is in on it too. So. You do the spot a couple of times to make sure it looks the best, and you got the best impact to get that Showtime kick off the cage, and look like Thatcher comes away losing a couple of teeth. He gets the win, but he loses a couple of teeth. And some of that stuff you can't fake, though, because I'm pretty sure they were like, okay, we're okay, bro, we're gonna go hard. I've never seen any of their previous matches, but apparently this is reminiscent of some of the matches they had on the indies. So I guess they decided to just go hard like they did in the old school. And
I know they met before in like Evolve. I know that they fought in MLW. And Thatcher, it made Thatcher, because he's still new to mainstream audiences who just watch the WWE, AEW products.
Right.
And Riddle's going to be a star. And so, put the guy over. He looked legitimately tough to fight back from getting his teeth knocked out to end up getting that win. He's a star in NXT already because of what our favorite bro did for him on this night. Because we know, as we learned on Friday night, there's a reason that bro took the pinfall. Riddle lost because he's moving on.
Yep. And I hope they know what to do with him too, because
It's an unusual gimmick, Doug. I mean, it's unique. It's what makes him so interesting. And you worry about the uniqueness if it gets sanded down for mass appeal, if they think they need to tone him down in any sort of way, fit him into the WWE style package, he might be destined for the mid card, which is not where Matt Riddle needs to be, not with the skills that he brings to the table.
no, I can totally see, 2 months from now, he is like a comedic stoner mid Carter.
Yeah. And
Yeah, if they do this wrong.
let's hope that we're wrong on this
I
because
hope so.
he has so much to offer, and best of luck, Matt Riddle, on the big stage. But yeah, absolutely. If you're going to go watch one match this week, you got both bros here in agreement. It actually has been a while. I think it's been 3 or 4 weeks since we've done match of the week.
Yeah,
so,
but that is a uniting match.
if you've not seen it, you watch it, and you all you certainly will agree.
You will see you will see why. And well, we're going to have some awesome matches to talk about next week, right after. I almost said NWA. That's fresh in my mind. NXT.
Yeah, so folks, if you haven't seen our schedule that we posted on our Facebook page, the next 2 weeks will be coming to you immediately after the pay-per-views we just previewed. And then we'll be back 3 weeks from now at our regular 8 o'clock time spot to talk about AEW and analyzing its first year of operations, what they got right, what they could still improve on, and just sort of a retrospective. So we'll have a thematic show for you here in 3 weeks, but the next 2 weeks we are live
Right after the pay-per-views. Everybody, I've been Doug.
And I've been Kevin.
And we've been rambling about wrestling. Everybody stay safe. Get outside if wherever you are allows that sort of thing now. And if not, stay home and watch some wrestling.
See you next week.
Good night, everybody.